From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Keith Allen and proudly welcoming you to this Tuesday's edition of For the People. It's Tuesday. It's June the 13th, 2017, and we have a packed show just for you. North Korea back in the news, and troublesome news. Dennis Rodman apparently has been a friend of Kim Jong-un, or whatever you want to call him, the leader over there that doesn't poo. He's visiting because he's his best friend. Apparently, maybe his only friend. You got to watch your step around this guy. He kills family, so, you don't think he's going to, well, hopefully Rodman has a better experience than some of the people who have lost their lives, but it's very interesting just what has transpired this morning, and we don't really particularly think here at For the People this has anything to do with Rodman coming to North Korea as a goodwill gesture to talk basketball and stuff like that. And the reason we're mentioning this is because there was a student that was jailed for over a year, and he's been released, and he's on his way home as we speak. The 22-year-old Warmbier has served just over a year of his 15-year sentence of hard labor, allegedly for taking down a sign of the late dictator Kim Jong-un, the second, his daddy, while Warmbier was in the country on a tour. Now, as of this morning, Warmbier was on his way home to Cincinnati, and further details have been released to say that Warmbier actually has been in a coma for a year. For 1 year. Fred Warmbier, the father, he says, "Our son is coming home." He was telling the Washington Post this morning, after his son has been evacuated from North Korea. At the moment, we're just treating this like he's been in an accident. We get to see our son, Otto, tonight. Warmbier's exact condition was not known, but they say that he is in a coma. Former New Mexico government Bill Richardson, who has worked for the Warmbier release tirelessly, really has been one of the best friends of the family. He says this release with the Center for Global Engagement said Warmbier has been in a coma, and he was the one that said it for a year. Otto has been in a coma for a year now and urgently needs proper medical care in the United States. Richardson said in a statement obtained by Fox News, "We received a call from Cindy and Fred Warmbier earlier today to update us on Otto's condition. I'm no uncertain terms. North Korea must explain the causes of his coma. The U.S. has no diplomatic relations in North Korea. Foreigners who have been detained or imprisoned in the Hermit Kingdom often have shared experiences, confusion, coached confessions, communication blackouts, and isolation." It's hell on earth, and it is really amazingly questionable why Dennis Rodman goes over there, the famed NBA player, great at basketball. He hasn't played in many years, over 56 years old, 57 years old, but says that he's his best friend, the dictator. There's nothing humane about him, and the stuff that he does to his people is just the nightmares. And maybe in his own way, he feels like he might be able to soften the heart of this dictator in some way, to be able to loosen them up to be able to speak some common sense to him. And if he's a friend, maybe he'll actually listen if he really does deem him to be a friend. But it is very sad news for the family. It comes on the heels of him actually just practically landing. Of course, Rosman said that he comes there to open doors. It doesn't seem like much of a door to get your son back in a coma, and God knows what the heck they did to him. This is just absolutely horrible. It's horrendous. You can't feel good about that one at all, but our prayers for the family, obviously, at this time. President Donald Trump considering firing special counsel Robert Mueller, according to Newsmax CEO Christoper Ruddy, and he's been on the circuit talking about it. And this is him a little bit earlier talking about this very development. And here he is.
Well, I think he's considering perhaps terminating the special counsel. I think he's weighing that option. I think it's pretty clear by what one of his lawyers said on television recently. I personally think it would be a very significant mistake, even though I don't think there's a justification. And even though, I mean, here you have a situation.
You don't think there's a justification for
a special counsel in this case, but also, I mean, Robert Mueller, there's some real conflicts. He comes from a law firm that represent members of the Trump family. He interviewed the day before, a few days before he was appointed special counsel with the president, who was looking at him potentially to become the next FBI director. That hasn't been published, but it's true. And I think it would be strange that he would have a confidential conversation and then a few days later become the prosecutor of the person he may be investigating.
Interesting.
I think that Mueller should have not taken the position if he was under consideration and had a private meeting with the president and was privy maybe to some of his thoughts about that investigation or other matters before the Bureau.
Major conflict of interest. I mean, I knew, and you, if you listened to For the People, knew long in advance that there was going to be this firing, this draining of the swamp when there is this conflict that goes on and it's not productive. And if it's not working for the administration, then you got to get rid of them. Newt Gingrich, which I think is a very smart guy, just has a book out, just released, just dropped. It's called Understanding Trump. And you got to get the book because it's brilliantly written by Gingrich, knows the inside workings of the mind and what he's having to battle with, and really is a good portrait into the workings of the mind and to the mechanics of the current administration. Here's Gingrich on Mueller a little bit earlier.
Mueller's first 4 hires were all Democrats. One of them had worked for the Clinton Foundation. One of them had, in 2 cases, deliberately had hid evidence from the defense, one of which was repudiated by 9-0 by the Supreme Court. These are bad people. Bad people. I mean, these are people who are going to be after Trump. He did not hire a single Republican in the first wave.
All right, so, and that's Mueller's decision. So you get all these Dems, these holdovers, these folks that are pro-Obama, and they don't like the current administration. How do you think things are going to roll down? You don't think people have agendas? You don't think that people could just forget all of that? No, it would be nice that they would do that very thing, but they're not doing it. Gingrich on the current reality, I thought this was kind of an interesting take, and Gingrich does have these one-liners, perfect for television, been doing it for a long time. Obviously was a great gifted speaker as the Speaker of the House. But this is what he had to say in this reality that we live in.
And I think we're in a different world. And I think if you look at the intensity of where we are right now, whether it is somebody holding up the bleeding head of the president or a New York play showing the assassination of the president, we're in a period where if people think this is going to be a neutral, professional investigation, I think they're delusional.
All right. Absolutely delusional. But this is the climate. This is what we're living in, and this is what we're getting through, and it's bumpy, and I knew it was going to be a bumpy ride, but, it seems like every day is a different development. Jeff Sessions in session today, Capitol Hill, drilling him, trying to figure out this whole Russia thing, what he knew, and, of course, no smoking gun there, but they have to continue their investigations there. Paul Ryan earlier, Capitol Hill, talking about the many things that the GOP is trying to concentrate on with all of this other stuff, like on Capitol Hill, is going on, what they're trying to really accomplish for you and I.
Remember, with a new president in the first year, you always have an abbreviated budget season. That's just the way budgeting with new administration works. So we always knew that we had a constricted budget and appropriation season. We're having a debate right now about how much we can assist the Pentagon and the military. So it's not a question of more resources for the military. It's just a question of the degree of how much more resources we can dedicate to the military. And that's really what this big debate is about. And then we're going to have the kind of debate about what we call reconciliation instructions are necessary, not just for tax reform, but for other kinds of things we need to make sure that we're getting the budget trajectory heading in the right direction. What's the purpose of this budget? Get us on a path to balance, get working on our debt problem, which is a long-term problem, rebuild the military, and then put the kind of tools in place so we can maximize economic growth. The crown jewel of growing this economy, regulatory relief. You just saw what we did with the Choice Act last week. Tax reform. We think tax reform is absolutely critical to get 3% economic growth, to get higher wages, to get people going to work, and that is really important. That's what this budget's about. So we have lots of priorities that we're having a debate about how best we advance those priorities. We're having the kind of family conversation you have every year. When we have a resolution on that, you'll know.
And there you go. It was good information. It's good that this stuff is going on. And, you know, the mainstream media not going to convey what Paul Ryan, what the GOP is doing up in the Hill. They just want to hear what these sticky investigations, hoping that there's somehow a smoking gun. Somehow they're able to go ahead and indict somebody, go ahead and impeach Donald Trump. That's what the narrative has been. That's what they continue to do. And that's what they have a lot of Americans actually believing, that there's just something sinister going on at Pennsylvania Avenue. And we have, some kind of collusion going on with Russia and Putin. And there's hotels going up in Moscow with the Trump name on them. I mean, that's what they would have you believe. And people actually believe it. It's really sick, but it's a disease. It's called liberalism. Congressional Republicans, not President Donald Trump, should look into removing former FBI Director Robert Mueller as special counsel investigating Russians' interference and collusion in the 2016 election because he has already hired bad people for his staff. This is ex-House Speaker Newt Gingrich. Says, I don't think Trump should do anything, but the congressional Republicans ought to look into it, which would be smart. One of Mueller's hires, Gingrich continued, had worked for the Clinton Foundation. One of them, in 2 cases, delivered his evidence from the defense, of which was repudiated at the 9-1 by the Supreme 9-1. And these are really bad people. Stephanopoulos, you got to love this guy, ex-Clintonite. He says, bad people, Stephanopoulos repeated. Bad people, Gingrich confirmed. You just heard it. I mean, these are people who are going to be after Trump. Stephanopoulos is smart enough to realize that's what the politics would be behind it. But this is the strategy. And as you can see, Comey was used in a big way. And by the way, it looks like that he's been leaking a long time ago before that leak to the press, the one that he confessed that there's actually more leaks. So there's going to be more inside investigations and more charges. Charges will be brought against him. Mark my words. You have not heard the last of the Comey saga, but he really has cooked his goose. I got to tell you, out of an illustrious career with the FBI and all his experience in Washington, he's really cooked it. What a bad reputation. There's nothing patriotic about it when you sell your president out and sell your country out. There's nothing good about it. I don't know how much money he made from the news media or what favors or, what did they have over him for him to actually do this? You don't think blackmail happens in Washington? It happens all the time. What did they have over him? Very interesting. And Loretta Lynch, the whole deal there. Trump administration weighing their options right now to see if there could be an investigation into that to prosecute her. Yeah, Loretta Lynch, she thought she got away with it, thought she could get an early retirement. Not very, very, very likely. By the way, this half hour brought to you by 123 Ready TV. Now, I've been getting calls across the country about this app, and they're saying, does this thing really